Oh man, it was amazing. It was so back to back. I think it was 12 countries, and we even extended it to 60 days. And I was going so fast, and there was such a few amount of days in every country that I've only just now kind of started to reflect on the magnitude and kind of the impact of it. And yes, I mean, obviously, in addition to producing wonderful portraits, it was very eye-opening for me as well.
In general, how did people respond to you when they saw you coming with your camera?
Well, it was just so amazing. And one thing, I was working through translators, which I'd never done before. And what I do is I just kind of approach random people on the street and I find out a little bit about them. And I've been doing this in New York for 4 years. And the question was, going to these places such as Iraq, going to places such as South Sudan and Democratic Republic of Congo, are people going to be receptive to this kind of thing? Are people going to allow a stranger to walk up and kind of find out intimate details about their life? And, I was amazed that, after traveling all over the world now, the place that I have the most difficulty getting people to let me take their photographs is New York City. I remember when I got back for the first day, I got rejected about 5 or 6 times in a row. And I remember it was a very new feeling. I hadn't felt it in a long time.
I think
they were receptive.
essential to what you do, surely, is making people feel comfortable with this whole experience because it's so personal taking someone's photo. How do you do that when you don't speak the language?
Right, and that was the biggest difficulty. One of the things that I've kind of mastered in New York approaching over 10,000 people on the street, and it's not just getting someone to let you take their photo. After the photo, I tend to ask very personal questions like, what was the saddest moment of your life, or what do you feel most guilty about? And the entire process behind that is just keeping things very conversational. Somebody followed me one time and they said that I used to think you were a photographer that interviewed people, but now I just realize you're a guy that's walking around and talking to people and then taking their photo. And that's the key. It's all about keeping the interaction very conversational. And when I was traveling around the world, a lot of my success was dependent upon the personality of the translator, not just their English proficiency, but their ability to just kind of be good with people and connect with people and make them feel comfortable.
Brandon, we're looking at some incredible photos you've taken now, and one's just come up of some kids. I mean, kids are so great to take pictures of. Were they the sort of same wherever you were, that kind of wide-eyed wonder, or did you find some children quite damaged by the conflicts that they'd been in or what they'd experienced?
Right. Children, I think, especially in some of the, tougher places that I went and photographed, offers kind of a respite from the, I guess, excuse me, I guess from some of the, hopelessness or kind of danger of an area. Kids always seem to have a very they have their own little bubble of childhood. I remember one of the places that kind of exemplified this the most is I found some children in Iraq, in a Yazidi refugee camp, right after the Yazidis had fled their homes in Sinjar. And I had found a camp where all the parents were very panicky and they were very worried about their relatives. And I found this group of children that were just kind of building this car out of cans in an empty crate. And they told me they were building a car, and I just kind of laughed it off. I thought they were using their imagination. And I walked back 5 minutes later, and these 4 children had created a actually working automobile using nothing but bean cans and an empty crate and wires. It was really quite amazing.
Being in Erbil in August, photographing the Yazidis who had been ignored by so much of the world for so long and then became the center of such a big international story, how was that?
Oh, it was unbelievable. I mean, the timing of it was just completely coincidental. I had planned on going to Iraq first, but, we were kind of keeping an eye on security updates. Would I be able to go? Would I not be able to go? And if I probably had tried to go 24 hours later, I would not have been able to go because the day I landed was the day that the Mosul Dam got taken. So the 4 days, the 5 days I spent in Iraq happened to be kind of the apex of all the events around there. And so I was in a very interesting position to kind of talk to these people, all these refugees, just as they were being displaced, and really to kind of depict their stories. And it was very interesting. When I say in my process in New York, it's all about kind of finding out about people's hopes and dreams and their strongest memories. And what I realized, especially talking with these refugees, is that there's so many places in the world that the present circumstances are so overwhelming, whether that's lack of security or lack of food, where the mind doesn't really have spheres or compartments within to hold aspirations or memories because the present circumstances are so overwhelming. And when I was talking to these refugees, I realized how inappropriate it was to ask about the future or the past because they had nowhere to live and they didn't know where their family was. And I just realized that there's so many people around the world that are just so overwhelmed by their present circumstances that they don't get to have the luxury of enjoying the problems that we have or the aspirations that we have.